All right, how you getting on? Hang on a second, I'm drinking some Lucozade here. Not sponsored. This podcast actually currently doesn't have a sponsor, so if you want a sponsor, let me know. And I'm very cheap because I haven't had a sponsor in a while. I've kind of blimped it a little bit. If you want to sponsor this podcast, super simple. Send me a message and then Revolut me €7. You will be surprised how cheap it is to sponsor this podcast. But anyway, look, Lucozade is not the sponsor of this podcast. I am. Actually, because there's no sponsor of this podcast, I'm going to start telling you in the way Sesame Street used to be sponsored by the letter S or something, shit like that. So I am now going to sponsor you with a bit of life advice, okay? This podcast is sponsored by the fact that you get to the point in your emails. Get to the point. Give me a too long didn't read. If you send an email that has a long bit of information in it, right? Summarize it to a tweet and put it at the top, and then if we can read more context afterwards, that would be great. There you are, life advice with Tony Cantwell. Actually, I have found that in my history, I've written back to the emails that are the least fluffy and the least flowery, with the least amount of context. I'm so easily intimidated by large chunks of text. But anyway, that's what this podcast is sponsored by. Keep your emails brief. Look at me, I'm so fucking showbiz. Guys, keep your emails brief, please. Email's a fairly archaic system. It has to be an easier way. But I don't want my, AI fucking like just summarizing my emails, and getting shit wrong, because it's done that before. I do find, though, I am more responsive to, because we're WhatsAppers, okay? We're WhatsAppers. So treat it like a WhatsApp. The idea of the email, I appreciate you. I appreciate you, to whom it may concerns out there, I hope this blank finds you well, yours eternally, all that kind of stuff. I love all that shit. I love that you love that. But I'm not in the fucking, I'm not, in the trenches. You know what I mean? I'm not having to cup my hand around a match. Otherwise, the Krauts will see it, right? I don't have to do that. So your letter has found me wishing this was a WhatsApp, really, So you don't need to, the flowery stuff is great. And if you're there with a little calligraphy set, I would love to see your to whom it may concern. I'm sure the W curls around and looks gorgeous. But as for, I just love a good, hey, do you want this? Or hey, do you want to do this? Yeah, no. But maybe I'm just a bit too curt. Too Kurt fucking Russell, more like. Too hot. But anyway, what else is going on? What was I going to say? Terry's been watching we've been working a lot in the evening. We're hardworking people. We work in the evening sometimes. And Terry's just been wanting a lot of shit on the background. But it's actually good TV. She's been watching Formula One Drive to Survive. And you know me, I don't like cars. But they've made it a little bit interesting. They've added a lot of, emotional elements into it, rivalries, all that stuff. But something that I've watched 6 seasons of this now. And I still don't know. Are you only as good as your last race? Because I'm just wondering, because I've watched 6 seasons of this and it never comes up. I'm just wondering, are you only ever as good as your last race? At the end of the day, you're only ever as good as your last race. Is that true? Because I've never heard that. I'm being sarcastic because it's all they fucking say. They should call it the you're only ever as good as your last race fucking show. At the end of the day, teams have to get points. Shut up. Maybe you didn't have something to say. At the end of the day, teams need points. And if you're not earning points, then that's going to be concerning or some bullshit. You know what I mean? It is insane. I have filled thousands of hours in talking bullshit, but I think all of it's been very good and important. They just will not stop saying you're only as good as your last race. It's the nature of the beast. You're only as good. Love seeing Jerry Halliwell pop up in it. But, I didn't know she was a toff, to be honest. I thought the posh one was the one with the name on it. Posh. Jerry's there just being a big, looks like she's in a fucking Ralph Lauren ad, you know? Just real tough. And I thought she was a bit more common, and I liked that about her. I thought she was a bit dangerous, you know? And yeah, you know, it's fine, whatever. Look, I've said this time and time again. The one I did fancy was always Mel B, but the fact that she was scary scared me. And I didn't know how to handle that, you know? I suppose I should talk about the Eurovision, and the calls for people to boycott it, which I get, and because of Israel's participation in it. I totally get it. I think you're fucking dead on to do it. I do think you might be. I think it's very important to talk about now, but I do think that we might be getting. Let me explain. I definitely think it's important to talk about. I think it's important to talk about Palestine every single year that the Eurovision is on, because the Palestinian flag is a flag that's actually listed on this fucking list of flags that are banned. It's long. The ISIS flag is also on this list. It's been there since 2016. You cannot bring a Palestinian flag. Iceland were fined for waving a Palestinian flag. Madonna got in trouble for having an Israel flag and a Palestinian flag. They were on the back of their dancers' jackets at one of the Eurovision events. So it's not. So the Palestinian identity, by by decree of the Eurovision, is to be forgotten, which is despicable and deplorable, and we probably should be boycotting every single Eurovision that flag is on the banned list. That should be enough. I think this is the third time in just the last 5 years when the Eurovision has been on and Israel have been in the spotlight for participating in an incredibly bloody campaign. I think 2021 they were firing into a mosque towards innocent people. In 2019 they had an incredibly bloody campaign. And now the worst one, with the majority of Gaza in ruins and 30,000 people dead, including the majority being women and children, and with 85% of Palestinians displaced, with no food, with no water, with no health care, and a ceasefire. Hopefully, if ice cream fucking licking warmonger Joe Biden has nothing to go by, will be finished by the weekend. What a way to fucking drop that news that no one knew. Saying, oh yeah, we got a ceasefire working out. Anyway, I'm going to lick my fucking ice cream. Just put the ice cream down, Joe. Just put the ice cream down, you clown. So, yes, there's a call for a boycott. I do not think Israel has the right to come out on that stage, regardless of the song, which I'll talk about in a second. I think they should be banned anyway. They shouldn't be able to come out into that stage and whitewash this incredibly, these war crimes on a stage. The only thing we should be talking about with Israel right now is the conflict, is a plead for them to stop their campaign and to engage in a ceasefire. You know, that's all. That's the only conversation. It shouldn't be whether their pop star is any good right now. And then the song itself is called October Rain, and it is directly about the Hamas attack that kind of, in this case, kicked off this initial campaign. This has been going on for a long time. Hamas's response to this is obviously because they've been under pressure and various things that Israel have done over the years. It's happened via this, it's been going on for years, but the most recent fucking domino was the October 6th or 7th attack where they, killed all those civilians at the music festival and took over, almost 300 people hostage. So it isn't, it is political. It is a political song. Moldova were banned for a political song. Russia have been fucking banned completely because of their for annexing, invading Ukraine. The song is using a world stage to have the only story be heard be the victims of this. And I also want to say though that it is incredibly heartbreaking. Sorry, I don't want to be using extraordinarily sympathetic language for one over the other. I'm trying to be as, I think it's very sad. Obviously, the conflict is absolutely heartbreaking. It's very sad that also people in Israel can't mourn a Hamas attack. They can't mourn the way that they want to mourn it. that is sad. It's extraordinarily more sad, of course. The completely, what's the word? Over the top response, the imbalanced response, the murder, the war crimes. But both things, both things. It's very hard in these times to accept both things. You were always just looking for what's worse, and we know what's worse. But it is incredibly sad that in any other, if there wasn't such a fucking grave response, I think Israel should be able to mourn people who were killed innocently at a music festival, and to be really angry about that, and to be really sad, and to have a song that comes back triumphantly. And what came after, has been much worse. I can't think of anything worse. There is nothing worse. So look, I'm not trying to get. You're not here for this, but I think people should boycott it. But what I also think is that, I think they have until March 11th to deny the song's entry on political grounds, and I think they should. And I don't know. I think this year at the Eurovision, I think Bambi Thug can do very well for Ireland. I think it's a shame that this has been kind of it's not a shame. Just it's what life is. This is what's happening at the same time. Israel's participation in it, I don't think, is just given the war crimes. I don't think they belong in there. If it's all peace and love and all that kind of thing. I suppose they're going off the basis that it was a response and they're looking for Hamas and all this bullshit. But, I think they're trying to snuff out Gaza for good. They snuff out Palestinians for good. So, yeah, I think you're dead right in boycotting. I personally don't know. Like, maybe that's a solution. And I think if you don't want to watch it, that's dead right. I probably will watch it, and I probably will just be a bit vocal about it, because I watch it like on YouTube. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Does my view in the algorithm assist anything that's pro-Israel? I don't know. Maybe it's a principle thing that I'm not getting. I understand, like, boycotting brands or whatever that are giving money directly to Israel, and I totally understand that. And that's a kind of, that is a, what's it called? You're cutting off some excess of supply in a weird way. You're voting with your euro. I don't know how me not watching the competition, because I feel like boycott involves some level of silence involved, and I kind of feel like this is an opportunity to be, extremely vocal. And I also would be interested to see how the world. I think it's just absolute tone deaf, Israel competing, and I think it's tone deaf having a song called October 7. I don't know. Will we see them get through? What will we see the response being? I don't know. I'm interested. It's a geopolitical moment, and I'm curious. And my stance in it is that I don't think they should be allowed in. I know Bambi Thug, they've been very vocal saying that they don't believe Israel should be in. So I feel like it's unfair as well of the contestants in it, of the countries, a lot of whom would much prefer Israel weren't in it, that they're not really being listened to, and that there's one rule for Russia and a different rule for Israel. But I think people who want to boycott it, absolutely you fucking should. I don't know if I'm going to boycott it, because I don't know if that's really me cutting off any kind of supply in the same way. But I will probably use the airspace around that time to be vocal and to let people know that the Palestinian flag is not allowed, that Israel should not be in, and that this is an incredibly political song. And here's a reminder of the other side, the side that doesn't have a pop star and a pop song right now, who can't actually even be heard right now. So that's what I've been thinking about that recently. I do think that the Eurovision probably won't allow the song. I think that's probably the least that they'll do. But Israel is a very powerful country in this whole thing. The fact that they're in the Eurovision in the first place. Anyway, it's not really about the Eurovision, is it? It's about a fucking horrible humanitarian crisis. So that's all I'm going to say. That's just my thoughts on that. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to go to the gym twice this week, right? 3 times, actually. I've been seeing a lot of like scrawny little dudes, scrawny little faces, nervous dudes that are fucking jacked. that are jacked, you know? You can see the face of someone and you're like, I know who you were in primary school, bro. I just fucking know. I know by the face on you. I knew where you were in the pecking order of things. I know what was in your lunch. It was buttered bread sandwiches. I know that, bro. I know this. You had boxes of raisins and buttered bread sandwiches. I know this. You had water for your drink. And now you're jacked. And I'm not. You know? So I need to, I just need to, it's fine. It's a long process. I'm going to get jacked in a couple of years. I'm going to just be gradually getting jacked. I've decided. Now, can you tell by this? Can you not tell by my inflection how I mean it this time? 2 days off? No. Well, as of recording this, we'll see how the weekend goes. But I'm 2 days off the vape. And I was in a shop and there were some delicious looking vapes in there, I have to say. I'm a serial vapist no more. I am no longer a babe nursing from the nicotine. Okay, I am free. I've said this before in a previous pod that I was, the vapes were wanted me to do things, dangerous things. There was a moment I was driving past a shop and I was like, oh, do you know what? Actually, that shop never has parking. So what I'll do is I'll pull over here, park, and I'll walk up here and I'll grab a vape. And then like the kids in the back will be fine. I'll only be 10 minutes. And I was like, hang on. What? Hang on a second here. If I know how, the only survival voice I have I only have a survival voice for my kids. I don't have it for myself. I will drill into a plug. I will, mix chemicals without any gloves on, But with my kids, I'm like, no, hang on. I have a kind of voice in my head that protects them. I have an instinct. I can see, I'm like Cypher in the Matrix. I'm like corner there. I'm looking at as the code. Corner there. Put a hand out. Catch the back of their head before it hits the fucking ground. Put a hand over a corner. I do my own full of fucking skulls into it. Hurts his head off my ring. And I'm like, well, that could have been a corner, bro, right? I have this. I can see it in my head. My third eye opens up and I can see all of these dangers for my children. Yet, a toxic fucking parasite spore that is my desire to be nicotined up to the fucking gills is telling me to actually leave the kids in the car for 10 minutes while I go get a vape. That is now dangerous now. That's dangerous. Now, I didn't listen to it, But I'm like, okay, no, that would be a bad idea. But who's this guy? Who's this fucking mushroom little clicker from The Last of Us trying to come out? So when I heard that, when I got that bad advice, I was like, I need to sack my agent here, I need to sack my agent here because he's now giving me bad career advice, All of his advice recently has been leave the kids and go get vapes. It has been order vapes off Deliveroo. It has been, this is the advice I'm getting, It has been buy 2 vapes so that you don't, so now we're not even like living in the fantasy that we're going to quit. You're just going to get 2 so that when one runs out, you'll have another one. Do you know what I mean? Maybe we should start looking into that. The big vapes, the ones that last longer, all this stuff. That was the career advice I've been getting for the longest time. And it's kind of, it's off kilter with what I want to do. So look, please pray for me. 2 days. I mean, when do I am going out tomorrow maybe. Might want to get a vape, but I won't. Still haven't had a fag in about a year, which is good, But look, pray for Mojo. Me, lost at sea with Mary. We'll see how we get on. But this is a thing as well. I don't know if you're familiar with the book, The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. It's a very good book. And it's digestible and bite-sized. And I've probably talked about it a good bit. But there's a real power in like vilifying the bad person, the bad advice, the bad voice. Brezzy does it with his bad voice, calls it Jeffrey. I call mine Gary. But there's amazing little tidbits in the book. He basically says in the book that all creative acts, anything brand new, anything that anything that elevates you to a higher being is going to be met with a thing called resistance. He calls it resistance, and he vilifies it. He visualizes it like a demon there to give you bad advice all the time. If you want to go to the gym, you're like, I don't know. That is resistance. There is literally like, so picture it now. It's rather than you visualizing yourself as unmotivated, visualize the fact that you actually are motivated, but someone is trying to stop you, and it's something you actually have to overcome. That's a different mindset altogether, you know? If you're sitting down and you're trying to write something and you're like, this isn't good, everything I try and write is bullshit, that is a voice in your head. That is resistance. It is trying to stop you. It's trying to keep you safe. It is trying to keep you in a kind of lower frequency, so that, because all it thinks is that anything above this is dangerous. You know, it's scared. It's scared. It's scared for you to reach your higher frequency. All this shit. So I like that. I like vilifying things. So I'm now vilifying the vape. I'm calling it the spore. And the spore is not going to stop me from reaching my higher being. Now, I might need to come up with the one who's stopping me from going to the gym. You know, I might need to do that. My new TikTok buzz right now is incredibly dumb dudes talking about money. I find it, I'm trying to think of things differently, right? There's lads being like, it's kind of like conspiracy theories. It's kind of like, sorry, what am I getting at here? Bro, like, you know, finance bro talk, right? And not like good finance, like just people who, like, I'm obsessed with people who like Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate, and people who talk about finance to do with that, and stand there in front of, you know, rooms of incredibly stupid men and say, okay, bro, so like a bank, what is a bank? Where it's you know, think, where does the name bank come from? It comes from riverbank, and at the riverbank is where all the flow ends up at the riverbank. The flow of what? Money, water. Money is water. So if you're not in charge of your bank, then you're not in charge of the flow. The banks are controlling the flow. I'm like, that's kind of right, but like, no shit, but also no shit, and also that's right, and but also no shit, you know. So what you know, what's the fucking point of saying that? Why did you use this oxygen? Can we have it back, please? Can you grow a tree in your back garden to make up for the fucking oxygen you just wasted with that bullshit? Like, it's just like saying water's wet. Water is wet. And then saying, okay, what is wet? Where does wet come from? The weather. What comes down in the weather? Rain. What does rain turn into? Water. So water is wet. Cute. I'm glad you had a fun little time there. Can I leave? Why are you doing this? So, I mean, but I'm kind of like, there's a lot of the sad thing about kind of money bros, right, is that, like, if you watch two of the videos, they're funny. And the third one is like, I hate women. Okay, like, shit. I thought we were having just a little laugh about this. Now I despise you. Do you know what I mean? It's the same with like conspiracy theories. It's like, okay, interesting. 9/11. Hang on. Was that an explosion at one of the windows before the plane hit? Interesting. What is Building 7? Zionist conspiracy. You know, that's a shame. You know, and anti-Semite. Goes straight to anti-Semite so quick. So, yeah, you got to watch out for those little TikTok bros. But you know what? Like, everyone's just so fucking stupid and horny and, like, weird. Everyone's just a little horny weirdo. So whatever, if these boys just want to hang out with each other. Do you know what they are? They're nervous. And I used to think that, I used to listen to emo music, right? That, like, there were songs that were like this is sort of lyrics I'd be listening to. This is from Jude Law and the Semester Abroad by Brand New. And even if her plane crashes tonight, she'll find some way to disappoint me by not burning in the wreckage or drowning at the bottom of the sea. You know? This guy, he really doesn't like this bird. And there's a lot of that shit. Songs like Screaming Infidelities by Dashboard Confessional. Like super fucking clingy, emotional, screaming, I hate you, I love you. And what's my favorite lyric? from Your Soul Last Summer from Taking Back Sunday. This is my favorite emo lyric of all time. He says, the truth is you could slit my throat, and with my one last gasping breath, I'd apologize for bleeding on your shirt. Love that shit. Loved it, you know? But it's all very like, what are these boys doing? Do you know what I mean? And we find out later these boys are actually these are a bunch of soft boys. These are boys were using this little soft little image, cracking on to younger birds and being deplorable and getting them to send photos. In the case of Brand New, Jesse Lacey did that, you know? And on the outside, you would probably think, oh, if boys are absorbing this content, they probably believe every word of it and they hate women. But I also listened to all this shit and I didn't, you know? And listened to Eminem songs where he's, you know, killing his wife or his girlfriend, Kim, you know? And we're like, oh shit, I suppose if I'm listening to that, I hate women. I suppose if I'm listening to Tupac, I'm like ordering sex off of fat ass bitches. But you're not. You just, I suppose it's all just weird little flexes, isn't it? I don't know. I mean, look, it's always good to be vigilant about assholes and toxic male groups and all that kind of stuff. Always good to be vigilant. But I also think that some people are just flexing and they've never met a bird before. Do you know what I mean? I also think that they're probably just, I think love can kind of conquer all a lot in some cases. I'm talking about straight boys. It's always straight boys anyway, you know? So, well, I would love to see what would a kind of a male, what was the gay male rights group? Let's have a look into that. But now I'm just having thoughts. Now you're just watching me have thoughts. Live. Watch me think and stare off. What is it? You stare off into the right eye if you're actually thinking of something, and you stare off into the left if you're pretending. So if someone ever is like, oh, actually, let me think about that. They're staring off into the left. They're making shit up. You stare off into the right, I think, when you're actually telling the truth. I used to always try and figure these tricks out so that I could get women to fall in love with me. You know, I think everything was motivated by trying to get a girlfriend. You know, psychology. Okay, I just need to understand women. Maybe I'll meet a woman first. No. I think I need to understand how liars lie first. Okay. Why don't you just talk to your friends? No. Why don't you ask them what they like? No. Why don't you just ask them if they want to kiss? Yeah, no, I'm going to try and figure out if I can. I'm going to follow this FBI detective's YouTube on how to lie and body language. You know? Yeah, I don't know. I think all these TikTok finance bros, I just think they need to have someone that completes them and they'll be fine. That's all they're looking for, isn't it, in the first place? A nice little group. Anyway, thanks very much for listening to this pod. I love you. I'm a huge fan of you. And if you want to listen to more of this kind of stuff, I had a podcast there. I was talking about all the hottest Irish actors and why I think they're hot and what Irish men can do to kind of improve their riz. What else was I talking about? I was talking about a lot. It was a fun episode recently, and you can find that over on Head Stuff Plus. And for the price of a pint a month, you can listen to that extra podcast every single Friday, as well as this one. Also, I am looking for sponsors, so do get in touch. I'm taking all sponsors now. It's been long enough. I've just been preoccupied with the other podcast, but this podcast needs a sponsor. So look, if you're a newsagent, you're a coffee bean, whatever, right? Let's sell you over here. All the best. Bye-bye.